The Vampire Diaries, The Awakening. This is part 11. This is part 5. Then it was as if their minds were merging, becoming one. He could feel Catherine's joy in drinking from him, her delight in taking the warm blood that gave her life. And he knew she could feel his delight in giving. But reality was receding. The boundaries between dreams and waking became blurred. He could not think clearly. He could not think at all. He could only feel. And his feelings were spiraling up and up and up, carrying him higher and higher, breaking his last ties with earth. Sometime later, without knowing how he had gotten there, he found himself in her arms. She was cradling him like a mother holding an infant child, guiding his mouth to the rest on the bare flesh just above the low neck of her night shift. There was a tiny wound there, a cut showing dark against the pale skin. He felt no fear or hesitation, and when he stroked his hair encouragingly, he began to suck. Cold and precise, Stefan brushed dirt off his knees. The human world was asleep, lost in stupor, but his own senses were keen, life keen. He should have been sated, but he was hungry again. The memory had weakened his appetite. Nostrils flaring wide to catch the musky scent of fox, he began to hunt. Okay, so that didn't last long. Now we're on chapter 12. Chapter 12. Elena revolved slowly before the full-length mirror in Aunt Judith's bedroom. Margaret sat at the foot of the big four-poster bed, her blue eyes large and solemn with admiration. "I wish I had a dress like that for trick-or-treat," she said. "I like you best as a little white cat," said Elena, dropping a kiss between the white velvet ears attached to Margaret's headband. Then she turned to her aunt, who stood by the door with needle and thread ready. "It's perfect," she said warmly. "We don't have to change a thing." The girl in the mirror could have stepped out of one of Elena's books on the Italian Renaissance. Her throat and shoulders were bare, and the tight bodice of the ice blue dress showed off her tiny waist. The long, full sleeves were slashed so that the white silk of the chasm underneath showed through, and the wide, sweeping skirt just brushed the floor all around her. It was a beautiful dress, and the pale, clear blue seemed to heighten the darker blue of Elena's eyes. As she turned away, Elena's gaze fell on the old-fashioned pendulum clock above the dresser. "Oh no, it's almost 7. Stephen will be here any minute." "That's his car now," said Aunt Judith, glancing out the window. "I'll go down and let him in." "That's all right," said Elena briefly. "I'll meet him myself." "Goodbye. Have a good time trick-or-treating." She hurried down the stairs. "Here goes," she thought, as she reached for the front door. She was reminded of that day nearly 2 months ago now, when she'd stopped directly into Stefan's path in European history class. She had the same feeling of anticipation, of excitement and tension. "I just hope this turns out better than the plan did," she thought. For the last week and a half she'd pinned her hopes to this moment, to this night. If she and Stefan didn't come together tonight, they never would. The door swung open and she stepped back with her eyes down, feeling almost shy, afraid to see Stefan's face. But when she heard his sharp, indrawn breath, she looked up quickly and felt her heart go cold. He was staring at her in wonder. Yes, but it was not the wonder it was not the wondering joy she'd seen in his eyes that first night in his room. That was something closer to shock. "You don't like it," she whispered, horrified at the stinging in her eyes. He recovered swiftly, as always, blinking and shaking his head. No, it's beautiful. You're beautiful." Then why are you standing there looking as if you'd seen a ghost? She thought. Why don't you hold me and kiss me? Something. You look wonderful, she said quietly, and it was true. He was sleek and handsome in the tux and cape he'd donned for his part. She was surprised he'd agreed to it, but when she made the suggestion, he seemed more amused than anything else. Just now he looked elegant and comfortable, as if such clothes were as natural as his jeans. "We'd better go," he said, equally quiet and serious. Elena nodded and went with him to the car, but her heart was no longer merely cold, it was ice. He was further away from her than ever, and she had no idea how to get him back. Thunder growled overhead as they drove to the high school, and Elena glanced out of the car window with dull dismay. The cloud cover was thick and dark. Although it hadn't actually began to rain yet, the air had a charged electric feel. Okay, so we're going on to chapter 6, and I'll be back.